vestibule that stuck out. And I think the lineup of people waiting for second or third service when Ed Fairman was here, which was the crowning time of my life church-wise.
The roots of Oxford Presbyterian Church's seminary building stretched back to a group of people seeking a new home due to their opposition to slavery. In 1808, these settlers from South Carolina and Kentucky founded a church located in what is today known as Houston Woods. Hopewell Church, as it was named, served many as a place of worship and as a part of the Underground Railroad.
When we came from Ireland, there was a Hopewell Church. When we landed in Chester County, South Carolina, we built a Hopewell Church, matching the Hopewell Church in Ireland. In the early 1800s, when we migrated to the north, we actually came in a covered wagon through the Cumberland Gap. And we came up here, we homesteaded right here, and they would take a team of horses and a sled and go down to the 4 Mile Creek and pull up the clay and bring it up here to the house, and they would make the brick, and then they would fire them. And as they would fire them, they would lay them to cool, and then they would build them up. When we came here, we started the Hopewell Seminary Church, which is over here at Hopewell, and that church is identical to the church in South Carolina. So you think back in generations, Hopewell.
Hopewell Church became the mother church to 4 other congregations. These churches were Fairhaven Presbyterian, Morning Sun Presbyterian, College Corner Presbyterian, and Oxford Theological Seminary. Oxford Theological Seminary opened in 1838 with 12 seminary students. Hopewell Church provided about half of the cost of building. The first floor contained classrooms and office space, with worship space on the second floor. Later, a large inclined earthen bank was built so that the worshipers could enter directly on the second floor without going through the school. The church soon earned the nickname of Bank Church due to this unique feature. Dr. Joseph Claybott led the newly opened seminary as its first president, with the assistance of Reverend Samuel McCracken, a Miami University professor. Oxford Theological Seminary prepared men for ministry for almost 20 years before it was decided to move the seminary to Illinois. 99 graduates had gone out into the world to found other churches, serve as missionaries, and lead other congregations. The congregation at Oxford Theological Seminary continued to meet. The downstairs now became a home for the pastor's family for a time. After the seminary's move, Reverend William McShirley provided leadership. McShirley's accomplishments included being a Miami University trustee, university librarian, and briefly acting university president, as well as a pastor. During his tenure, 129 members joined the seminary church. Many men led the seminary church through changing and challenging times. Reverend Jeremiah R. Britton began a revival within the church in 1891. Repairs to the seminary building and the building of the parsonage occurred during his pastorate. Reverend Samuel Jameson led the congregation through the trials of World War I and the deadly flu epidemic. His nephew, Howard Jameson, would later become pastor in 1943.
Howard Jameson replaced him, and he was just out of seminary and just married, and he was alive. They were a classic couple, and yet very friendly, and he started our young married couples group, which got a few of the older couples that wanted to come and a few singles that wanted to come, and we were a very active group in the church, and the church grew while he was here.
In 1938, a centennial service celebrated the 100th anniversary of the founding of Oxford Theological Seminary. Previous pastors and their families joined in sharing happy memories of the church. In 1946, Oxford and Miami University faced a new challenge. Huge numbers of veterans and their wives flocked to Oxford as part of the GI Bill. Reverend Edwin Fairman arrived in 1946 and stepped up to the challenge.
Ed Fairman was a very popular preacher, and he attracted a lot of students.
Ed Fairman did a lot of good for the church through Miami University students.
One of our friends said, I can't believe that minister. I've got to go hear him. He said, we were playing basketball and he came up and said, can I join you guys? And they said, sure. And he said, we didn't know who he was. And we were talking like guys sometimes talk, and right in front of him. And then later we found out he was a minister. He said, he's a great guy.
Most of his sermons, I mean, I was young. I could listen to and get something out of.
His wife Mary, and she should have been ordained too, because she was as involved as, well, I can't say that because of course he did the sermons and everything, and his sermons were talk about organized and neat. They were something else. And when he came to Oxford, he saw the university, and he thought, there's that group, just like I think our current pastor maybe is thinking, what a ripe field without any leadership, that, and he went on campus as school opened in the fall and said, anyone that'd be interested in taking a hayride and going out for a campfire, giving you a chance to get acquainted and possibly joining a group at the church and continuing your fellowship, and that sign up. Well, they signed up, and that started the Supper Club, which was phenomenal.
And that supper club was especially important to us, because that's where we met.
Well, it grew, and it grew, and it grew. And it got up to in the 70s, and regular. And they would eat that little simple supper that Marion, his wife, would plan the menu, buy the supplies, go to the locker, and Ed Hyde, who gave the organ, would kill a beef and have it all made into good ground beef. And then a lot of the suppers that we prepared were combination casserole or baked thing with tons of relishes to fill them up, and Kool-Aid to drink, and and maybe cobbler or sheet cake or something like that.
Reverend Fairman reached out to those young people by creating a supper club, young married groups, couple groups, and other groups where food, music, and fellowship could be found.
And one of the most fun times was the supper club.
Everybody loved him.
Yeah.
And Ed, he could just preach the most powerful sermon, but he was kind of quiet.
Really?
When it come to social things.
Okay.
Not Marion. She'd be like me.
Didn't
Had a good time, yeah.
In 1949, over 1,000 people attended Mother's Day service.
And in those days, in the United Presbyterian Church, before the 58 merger, it was easier to recommend pastors' names and to, in effect, choose your successor. And that's what Ed did. And so he had talked with me if I was willing to take it on, if it worked. Yes. And of course I was in seminary at that time and said yes. If that's going to work, that would be wonderful.
Yes.
Because I like working with students, and the community too.
Through all these years, Oxford Theological Seminary worked closely with other churches. As early as the 1920s, joint services were held with Oxford Presbyterian Church in the summer. The Oxford churches shared summer Bible schools, pulpit exchanges, and youth organizations at various times. Eventually, with the consolidation of the Presbyterian Church, the time came for the two churches to merge.
Well, as I said, we were sad to leave our little church because we liked it. But we thought probably it was for the best, and the committee that worked on it, they decided that it was the thing to do. So.
I think I was kind of resistant. I think there were some other people that were too. I think. I remember I was not really that favorable for it.
On January 1st, 1966, a new church was formed with 1,124 members. Named the United Presbyterian Church of Oxford, its buildings were named Memorial and Seminary in honor of the two churches. The Memorial building met the congregation's worship needs, while the seminary became a fellowship center.
There were many meetings about it, pros and cons, and after the churches merged nationally, we had more pressure locally to come together.
In 1980, the seminary building was honored with the designation of a historical site by the Presbyterian Historical Society. The seminary was recognized for its role in educating Presbyterian ministers in the pre-Civil War years. As part of the celebration, youth took turns ringing the seminary bells 155 times in honor of the 155 years of the Presbyterian Church in Oxford. In 1993, the seminary building took on new life as a youth center, with a gym and variety of games for youth gatherings. In 2018, another transformation will include areas for church and community events, such as dinners, meetings, fellowship gatherings, and wedding receptions. The Oxford Theological Seminary building has witnessed much during its rich history. Students eager to join the ministry, the challenges of war, celebration of wedding and anniversaries, the sorrows of illness and death, the joy of new life and baptism. Through it all, the seminary remains a light of hope, a symbol of God's enduring love for His people.
I just remember when I was little and he was collecting, I would watch him every Sunday. You know, we sat more to the back, my family did, and I would watch him, and I thought he was so cute, you know.
Okay.
And never dreamed that eventually, when we would be together, you know.
Yeah.
But I always thought it was so neat. He and his dad collected, and I would watch, and that was fun, you know. I remember that.
We drove up to Lake Geneva for a youth conference.
And my mother would not let me go unless another girl went. And I said, Mother, we're just driving in the car up to the conference, and then the girls stay in some tents and the boys stay in the others. Well, no. You don't go that distance unchaperoned. Even though we were engaged.
Even though you were engaged.
Even though we were engaged.
We ditched that chaperone at first opportunity.